Good evening. My name is Sam Raid. I'm joined by the rest of our capstone project group, including project manager Marissa Kaminsky and our faculty advisor Tom Abdullah. Tonight I will provide the background to our project, the methodology we employed, the results of our analysis, and the key conclusions that we reached for the client. Our client is the Federal Transit Administration, or FTA. As part of the U.S. Department of Transportation, they provide local transit agencies with financial and technical assistance. One form of assistance they provide is with the Environmental Management System Training Program. The Environmental Management System, or EMS, is a set of procedures and processes for training personnel and measuring and reporting environmental performance. The FTA, which has embraced EMSs for mass transit, has provided the EMS Technical Assistance Program in order to help transit agencies become more sustainable. The training program, which uses the international EMS standard called ISO 14001, has been provided by the FTA for more than 10 years over 3 rounds. This has trained 27 transportation agencies to help them kickstart their EMS. They have asked us to assess the efficacy of this program. In order to complete our task, we collected data from the local transit agencies through interviews and emails, and we also compiled useful information that was publicly available, such as sustainability reports and other published material. The FTA also provided us with some key information. As part of our analysis, we developed metrics for measuring success, such as whether the agency went on to receive ISO 14001 certification and the financial and environmental benefits of their EMS. Through this data collection, we developed our rubric for a successful trainee. We then analyzed the data comparing success to a host of agency characteristics, looking for trends which might point to a higher quality applicant. And we also performed the analysis and were able to determine that there were some key takeaways for the FTA based on our analysis. The success rubric we developed to analyze the impact of the EMS training program was based on metrics you see here, which we rated with weights apportioned as listed. This approach allowed us to dispassionately analyze each respondent's post-training success. As you can see, the metrics that we gave the most weight to were financial savings and improved environmental performance, and also the degree to which the EMS was actually maintained after the training ended. These are the results of the transit agencies we were able to analyze. As you can see, the agencies which performed the best were Los Angeles' Metro, Utah Transit Authority, which serves the Salt Lake region, and Sound Transit in Seattle. As we'll see from the next slides, the trends that we observed were minor, and the strongest trend was a lack of correlation between overall success and any one agency characteristic. This is actually important in that it shows that any agency can benefit from this EMS training program. One of the ways that we analyzed success was against regions throughout the US. So as you might expect, there was a slight trend with coastal regions where transit infrastructure was more developed. In the Northwest in particular, there was a little bit better performance than other regions. Another way we looked at success was plotted against average daily ridership. Here we suspected there would be a correlation with agencies that serve larger ridership, perhaps having an advantage over smaller agencies. However, you can see there is not really a correlation. There were a host of small agencies which performed anywhere from a 4 to a 9, showing that ridership is not a key factor in whether the transit agencies are performing well after the training program. One slight correlation which we did find was with core training hours. After the EMS training program, each agency underwent an audit based on ISO 14001 principles. The FTA published the results of this audit, which we compared against the number of hours each agency dedicated to the EMS training. And perhaps the most important observation was a consistent adherence to ISO 14001 standards after 1,500 core training hours. You can see the line in the center that marks 1,500. And we also observed diminishing returns after 2,500 hours. So we think that that's probably the sweet spot for the number of training hours dedicated to this EMS. In addition to investigating agency success, we also analyze the financial efficacy of the EMS training program itself. Our conclusion is that, as you can see, the FDA has a very high return for very low financial input. So far, the FDA has offered EMS training to 3 different groups of transit agencies, and all have seen significant financial investment into environmental initiatives, either through federal grants or reinvestment of revenues. As you can see, savings from pursuing these initiatives far surpasses the contracted training cost. Sorry. So there were a couple case examples of ways that these agencies were able to reduce their costs through environmental initiatives. Intercity transit focused on fuel. They were able to save 22,000 gallons of diesel by reducing their fuel by 3.85%. That was savings of $82,000 in 6 months. LA Metro Transit was able to save $400,000 a year through just changing the way that they wash buses and the technology they use to wash those buses. And Utah Transit used an initiative focused on fuel savings to save 300 gallons of fuel, which was worth $1 million. So essentially, most of these most effective case studies come from fuel and water savings. A few more comprehensive examples of the successful trainees. Sound Transit in Seattle acquired a midday bus storage facility to avoid bringing express commuter buses back to their original departure and then coming back into the city to pick passengers up again. This enabled them to save many hundred thousands of dollars, and this has already paid for itself. They also enabled commuter rails with automatic engine shutoff and electric power units that obviate the need for excessive diesel use. So these actually shut the engine off when it stopped, and these actually shut the engine off when it stopped and are able to provide the other energy services through electricity, not using diesel. SunTran, which is in Tucson, Arizona, was able to save a lot of fuel based on changing their supply of buses to natural gas, compressed natural gas, and then also through energy efficiency retrofits. Specifically, they invested in 89 compressed natural gas buses, which saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. And they also pursued biodiesel B20 as an environmental alternative. SunTran was also able to reduce waste disposal costs by managing hazardous and solid waste output. So some of the key takeaways that we were able to provide for the FTA based on our data collection and analysis. The EMS shows very high rates of return and increased savings. There is a weak relationship between ISO 14001 certification and the EMS success. Top performers are seeing 1.3% per year annual cost savings on operating budget. An agency's success is not defined by any one specific agency characteristic. You remember I went over that earlier. We've checked the success of the agencies against other characteristics of those agencies, and there hasn't been any correlation. So some of our final recommendations to the FTA. We observed several agencies that did not maintain their EMS, either because, so first of all, we want them to continue the training program. Based on the financials, it makes sense for them. They're seeing a large investment in environmental initiatives after a small investment in the training program. In addition to that, we suggest that they focus EMS core training hours between 1,500 and 2,500 hours. You'll remember that I mentioned that earlier. And we also suggest that they focus on the EMS, on integrating the EMS into agency culture. We observed several agencies that did not maintain their EMS either because they lost a key person or just never became a pervasive part of their agency culture. And we think that if that is part of the training program, it will be more effective. One of our biggest challenges also from an academic perspective was actually obtaining quality data to the level that we wanted. Our conclusion is that if these EMSs are going to be correctly valued, there needs to be abundant high quality data on the environmental initiatives and their associated investments. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. Can take any questions.
Thanks, Sam. It was really great. Did you guys look at like the effect of timing when the agencies maybe underwent the EMS training or developed it on their success rate, and if early adopters, how they compared to folks that might have learned something from their successes or failures later on?
Yeah, so we compared the success of the transit agency after they went through the training program. So, I guess you could say that transit agencies that went through the program a longer time ago had a longer chance to improve. But essentially, the improvements that we saw were directly related to the EMS training itself. So we didn't really examine that because there wasn't an opportunity to. Okay, thanks very much.